Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. First off, I want to preface this video by saying that the window is open, so there's probably going to be a lot of noise in this video from the cars that are driving by, but I'm going to try and cut out as much as I can. And also, my fan is on. It is probably the hottest day of the year so far, so that's why my window is open and my fan is on. So hopefully you can still hear me and the audio is not too terrible today. So today I'm going to show you all the books that I read in March, and this month has been pretty good actually. I read 6 books this month, which is probably the most that I've read in a month, but I haven't started counting until I started the YouTube channel. But so far this year, this has been the best reading month for me. So I'm gonna try and be quick with this video because I just wanna get this over with, and it's just really hot today, so I'm gonna try and go as fast as I can. The first book that I read this month was Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl, and I've already read this book last year. My opinions on this haven't changed. I still think this is a really good book to read if you're looking for something that's super meaningful, or if you're looking for something to help you put things into perspective. This book is pretty much about the author and his experiences during the Holocaust, and he also has his own philosophy about how man finds meaning in his life. Highly recommend this book. I gave it a 5 out of 5 stars last year, so this year it's the same. I also give it a 5 out of 5 stars. The next book that I read this month was The Bluest Eye by Toni Morrison, and I meant to read this book last month, but I kind of got into a reading slump, so I ended up finishing it this month, and I'm so glad I did because this is probably one of my new all-time favorites. The book is about a young girl who is basically mocked for her appearance, so she wishes that she has blue eyes. And the book kind of goes into like beauty and kind of our obsession with beauty, as well as race and class. So I thought that this book was beautifully written, and sometimes during the book I just wish I could like reach into this book and like hug the little girl, because it's just so sad hearing about her story and like all the things that ended up happening to her in the story. Personally, I think that everybody should read this book, and on my Goodreads I've actually created a list called books that I think everyone should read, or something like that. And this was probably the first thing that I added to that list. 5 out of 5 stars for that one, and hopefully I can try and read more of Toni Morrison's works, because I think the way that she wrote this book was very beautiful. The next book that I read was You Are a Badass by Jen Sincero, and this is a self-help book. For some reason, I expected this book to be kind of like The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck by Mark Manson, I believe his name is, but it's kind of not. I don't know why I thought it was going to be like that, but it's actually quite different from that book. I don't know where I got that idea. Anyway, this book talks a lot about like manifestation. It's basically a how-to book about eliminating your self-limiting beliefs and turning your life around, basically like how to change your life through the way of stopping your self-limiting beliefs. That's like the general idea of this book. So it's pretty basic. There's a bunch of manifestation ideas in there if you're into that. However, there were some parts in it where I was like, I don't know if she should have included this in the book, because I don't know, I just felt like it was not in good taste. One thing that I do remember was that she was saying like, if you're depressed, you should do this, which is not the exact quote, but it's along similar lines. And I thought that that could have been worded a little bit differently, because sometimes depression isn't something that you can just like fix. Like, you can't easily fix depression by doing things differently or having a different mindset. I'm not a doctor, but I don't think Jen Sincero is either, so I feel like she could have worded a few of those things differently on like the topics of depression and stuff like that. So I rated this one a 3 out of 5 stars because of that, and I also because I thought it was pretty basic. After that, I read The Turn of the Screw, which is a very short book, but for some reason it took me a while to get through this book, mostly because it's kind of hard to read. The basic premise of this book is that a governess goes to Bly Manor to educate a young boy and a young girl who are orphaned, and weird things happen in the mansion. If you're not experienced with reading classics, I don't feel like you should read this book. And even if you are, I don't know. I wouldn't say I'm that good at reading classics. I just enjoy reading some classics, but this one was pretty hard for me to understand. So this is probably something that I'll donate or put into a tiny library or something like that. It didn't make much sense to me. I don't think I was experienced enough in reading this book, and I feel like the whole book was kind of just like a blur. Another thing too is the audiobook, which I was listening to simultaneously because, you know, sometimes I want to get stuff done while I'm listening to the audiobook. And the audiobook was actually kind of annoying to me. The voice that she did when she was doing one of the characters was just so annoying. It made me not want to read this book anymore. For this one, I give a 3 out of 5 stars, and it's probably gonna get donated. So after that, I borrowed a bunch of books from my brother's fiance, and a video on all the books that I borrowed from her is probably gonna come out next week. If not next week, it'll be the week after. She actually gave me this stack of books, so she chose all these books for me, and I'm so glad she did because I like getting recommended books. The next book that I read was Sharp Objects by Gillian Flynn, who is also the writer of Gone Girl, and I believe that this book has already been turned into a mini-series on HBO, which I'm really excited to watch later now that I've finished this book. The basic premise of the book is that a Chicago reporter goes back to her hometown to investigate or report on the murders of 2 young girls. The young girls just happen to be the same age as her sister. And also she has a late sister who died from an illness back when they were children. So not only is she dealing with the investigation of these 2 young girls, but she's also dealing with the family issues that have been like slowly building up until now. And yeah, I think this book is really great. The suspense builds up so well, and I feel like the justification for everything that happens in this book. There are so many cars that are driving by right now. Like, I picked the worst time to be filming a video. While I was reading this, I thought it was going to be a 4-star read because throughout the book I thought it was gonna go one direction. Like, I thought I knew who did it, but at the end there was kind of a twist. I feel like the fact that it had me like thinking that I knew who it was the whole time, but then to reveal that it was somebody else, I ended up giving it a 5-star because of that. It wasn't just like out of nowhere either. Like, I feel like the actual killer was like justified, if that's the right word, or like they had enough motive. But yeah, because I really had no idea who ended up doing it at the end, I decided to give it a 5-star. The last book that I read for the month of March was The Silent Patient by Alex Michaelides. After I read the synopsis of this book, I was very excited to read it, so I decided to read it right away. It didn't hit my expectations as well as it did, but it still ended up being a good book. The book is basically about a painter who murders her husband and then just goes completely silent. Like, she does not speak a word after his murder, and people are trying to figure out why. One person in particular is Theo Faber, who is a psychotherapist, and he decides that he's gonna be the one to get her to speak. It's basically about them two, her story, and then him trying to get her to speak. Yeah, it's kind of like an unraveling of why exactly she murdered her husband. At first, I gave this one a 4.5 out of 5 because I felt like it was really good. There was just like one thing missing, and like I didn't know exactly what thing that was, but I just felt like there was a little bit something missing. But then I decided to give it a 4-star because after thinking about it, the justification for the end, not giving any spoilers, but the justification for the ending, it just didn't seem like there was enough there to have that scenario happen. I'm sure if any of you have read this book, maybe you'll agree or disagree, but I just felt like the ending, it just didn't feel like it was fully fleshed out. Like, I feel like a couple more chapters would have helped. It's still a really good book. I was super hooked from the beginning, and I just flew through the pages of this book. So I recommend this book, and again, I give it a 4 out of 5 stars. So that is it for all of the books that I read in March, and I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know if you have any recommendations for books that I should read. I really do like these thrillers like Sharp Objects and The Silent Patient, so if you have any book suggestions or video suggestions, I could really use some. That would be really appreciated, so definitely leave them in the comments. If you like this video, don't forget to leave a like because that would help me out so much. And if you're new to my channel, consider subscribing and hitting that notification bell so you can be notified every time I upload, which is every week on Sundays. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye!